Welcome to Discovery Tour by Assassin's Creed, Ancient Egypt. Welcome to Alexandria, planning of the city. Alexander's plan to build his great city began with a verse from Homer's Odyssey. There is, in front of Egypt, in the sea with many swells, an island called Pharos. Guided by these clues, Alexander the Great founded his future city at the western end of the Nile Delta. Though Alexander considered this location ideal for his great city, it presented considerable challenges. Too difficult to access during storms, the surrounding swamps threatened disease, and the limestone soil prevented the growth of healthy crops. However, due to the influence of his mentor Aristotle, Alexander the Great recognized that the true value was its strategic emplacement. Alexander knew that in controlling Pelusium to the east, Memphis to the south, and his crowning glory Alexandria to the west, he would create a triangular stronghold, allowing him to control the entire delta while giving him access to the Mediterranean. The Great Walls of Alexandria had a humble beginning. Lacking chalk to outline the future city's foundations, architects were forced to use flour instead. Clouds of migrating birds swept down and ate the flour, erasing the plans. This prompted Alexander to seek guidance from the oracles, who reassured him that his future city was destined to feed a large population. Excavations led by Mahmud Bey el-Falaki in the 19th century revealed that the wall enclosure measured approximately 5.2 kilometers in length and 2.2 kilometers in width. It was roughly 9 meters in height. These formidable ancient walls would resist a number of attacks, including fending off the king of Syria in 169 BCE. It wasn't until 295 CE that they eventually fell to Roman Emperor Diocletian, and this only after 8 months of relentless assault.
Βεβαίως έχω απαντάνσει.
Αδα είσαι εσύ! Γνώση νελάμι, εφόσον δεν κατέχεις.
Alexandria's principal architect, Dinocrates, chose a Hippodamian grid plan. The grid maximized functionality, with wide, straight roads and canals running beneath them. Alexander recognized the military value of the city's design. The wide, parallel streets gave him optimal surveillance of the city, while allowing the unobstructed flow of troops.
Τούτον ελάβνην ούγεστη.
A central corridor ran from the Mediterranean's north port down to Lake Mareotis to the south. This thoroughfare acted as an unobstructed link for commercial trade and travel between the two ports. Many of the streets were bordered with grand buildings and parks, including Canopic Street, with its impressive gate bordering the eastern end. Alexandria was most likely built upon an already existing Egyptian village. Upon its completion, the Egyptians reviled the city, refusing to call it by its founder's name. Instead, they called it Raked, the building, as a mark of disdain, which was later Hellenized into Rakotis. Despite this, the name Alexandria would remain.
Hey, αδα είσαι εσύ! Καλώς τα ήκουσες, εγώ συνέξω. Εγίγναστε γραφτό. Εντυχία αστέρισε. Και τα πραγμίατε και ενδύματα επίρρου. Πάντα τα...
Λίγο κιν, εσύ μη έχεις το γενομένο. Πώς έπραξαν τούτο να...
Παιδες, ήτι, ανόμαν πάντων επιγράφην επί της στίχεσι. Γραμμάτων μιζώνων, ήτι όδε πάντες. Είδον, νενίκη καπάλενσιν, βέλτιστος ήμι. Να, 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 εν τη εσού όψιν.
άκουσες εσύ. Γνωσκόμεθα γα, υπόποτε. Χέριν.
Ω, χαίρε.
Πάση η ώρα κάντε. Ο Λάκης της νυχτός επί τα τερνέκ.
Χαίρε.
Ω, χαίρε.
Welcome to the Moseion of Alexandria. The Moseion was a sector of the city commissioned by Ptolemy I to rival Athens' Academy as an institute of intellectual pursuit. Dedicated to the 9 inspiring muses, the Moseion became a great center for philosophical and scientific enlightenment. It welcomed scholars from many kingdoms, inviting them to share knowledge in literature, science, and geography. The Moseion was designed so that its buildings and grounds would accommodate free thinking, debate, and presentation. Meeting spaces and theaters surrounded a main courtyard. Expansive gardens were filled with exotic plants that aided in the study and supply of herbs and medicines. A zoo offered the study of animal behavior and physiology. Also among the Moseion's many star attractions was its astronomical observatory. Herophilus was a physician who lived most of his life in Alexandria. He was able to perform the dissection of human cadavers on a large scale due to the permissiveness of the city in such matters. Among many other discoveries, he learned that the brain was central to the human nervous system. He also extensively mapped the blood system and measured the pulse with the aid of a water clock. It is reported that in his thirst to understand human anatomy, he performed 600 vivisections on live prisoners.
Άρτια δείκνυμα της αγοράς. Αγγελίες είχαν. Στην εσάπιον δείκνυμα. Η πόλης πάσα ανηρέθιστο.
In order to be free to pursue their research, scholars were fed and housed at the Moseion at the government's expense. This freedom provided Alexandria's scholars a meeting space for intellectual pursuits and a haven for spiritual peace. Though nothing remains of the original Moseion, it lives on as the legacy of our modern museums.
Welcome to the Islands of Ferris. The Heptastadion was a bridge-like causeway connecting the island of Ferris to mainland Alexandria. Its name is based on the Greek terms of measurement, hepta, meaning 7, and stadion, which is a measure of length of roughly 180 meters. Since its construction would separate the Grand Port to the east and the port of Eunostos to the west, it was designed with channels at each end. These openings allowed passage from one port to the other. Along with creating separate harbors for the commercial and military shipping, the causeway served as a main aqueduct for the island's inhabitants. Its presence also helped protect the island and its ports from rough wind and sea currents. At the end of antiquity, the Heptastadion disappeared under layers of silt and soil, which formed an important sedimentary deposit. While the Serapeum was the most celebrated of the temples in Alexandria, many other temples were built within the city. Most of these structures have been completely erased over time, and there is no way to discern how many existed. However, research of ancient papyri offered tantalizing hints as to the possible location of at least some of the temples. Both papyri and coins reveal evidence of many temples built for the gods. Poseidon, the god of the sea, likely had an edifice in his honor west of this island, as well as on the mainland. This temple next to you is dedicated to Isis Pharia, the divine protector of the lighthouse. This location hosted annual celebrations in the month of April, known as the Sacrum Pharia, in connection to the lighthouse. In her incarnation as Isis Fortuna, the goddess carries a rudder and a cornucopia, both symbols of good luck for navigators. Considered one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, the Lighthouse of Alexandria was a source of great pride for the inhabitants of the city. Construction began under Ptolemy I's reign and lasted 15 years. It was completed during his son's rule. Once completed, the lighthouse was dedicated to the gods for the salvation of those who sail the sea. Built on the island of Ferris, the stone structure was 3 tiers set on top of one another in a step formation. The second floor consisted of an octagonal tower, and the top floor was a cylindrical tower topped by a statue. The interior provided space for staff rooms and a ramp which allowed the transport of fuel to the upper floors. Essential to safe navigation through the rifts and shallow waters, the Ferris was a functioning lighthouse with a beam reportedly visible 50 kilometers away. It's unclear what kind of fuel was used or how much. Any other details of how the light worked remain a mystery. For several centuries, the Ferris was one of the highest monuments ever built by man. It measured roughly 110 meters in height, compared to the Pyramid of Giza, which was around 140 meters tall. Gradually, the structure was eroded by earthquakes and then completely destroyed in 1480 CE, when a fort was built over it. Archaeological excavations on the seabed have uncovered many blocks from the ancient building.
Don't forget, you can still use photo mode at any time.
Whoa.
Hey!
Whoa. Whoa. Whoa.
Lux! Si ελάβνη χτίου γυμνέστε!
Whoa.
Ιδιώτη! Ελάβνη νούτι γνωστής! Εσού ελάβνην ούτι τους κόμιν γε. Τις βέλτιστος. Εγώ μεν κάλλιον έχω απιένα άμεσα.
Welcome to Cleopatra, Queen of Egypt. Cleopatra VII Theophilopator ascended the throne in 51 BCE at the age of 18. Though her early attempts to maintain power were often challenged, she eventually prevailed and became the sole ruler of Egypt. According to Plutarch, she was the only Ptolemaic pharaoh to speak the Egyptian language. Her intelligence, coupled with a good education and a great political mind, allowed her to make the alliances necessary to maintain the independence of Egypt while Rome was becoming a Mediterranean empire. It is important to understand that Cleopatra's knowledge of Egyptian language and keen understanding of the culture allowed her to make powerful ideological referents that resonated with ancient Egyptians. By associating herself with the goddess Isis, the divine mother, great of magic, and repository of divine essence, Cleopatra firmly established herself as the protector of the two lands and legitimized her place on the throne. Upon his death in 51 BCE, Ptolemy XII Aulus bequeathed his kingdom to his daughter and eldest son, Cleopatra VII and Ptolemy XIII. As was custom, the siblings were married. The new pharaoh was 10 years old, his sister wife 17. The early years of their reign were not easy. Between 50 and 48 BCE, droughts and floods aggravated Egypt's problems. General Achilles and the royal advisor Pothinos kept intervening in the young ruler's political decisions and eventually colluded to turn Ptolemy XIII against Cleopatra. By 48 BCE, Cleopatra was in exile. During Cleopatra's exile, the Roman Empire was not without its own internal conflict. Caesar and Pompey were at war with one another, and after his defeat in 48 BCE, Pompey fled to Alexandria in the hope of finding refuge. This turned out to be an unwise decision. Listening to his advisors, Ptolemy XIII elected to have Pompey assassinated, his head kept as a gift in the hopes of acquiring Caesar's favor. This gambit backfired. Instead of earning approval, the murder of a Roman greatly angered Caesar.
Μεγίστη χάριν δόντιση, ευπράτην.
Άγιε, κόρη. Δέου Αθηνά,
Απολά είναι η
παρήσιν σε
φωτογραφία.
στοιχείες, τέχε σύντας.
Πάνει χέρι. Πάνει καλός έχει. Α!
Απολαύθεις δίψα της πράξης. Χάρη ιδέμε. Πάρε είναι εόρακα.
Ως καγαθός άνθρωπος αΐκα. Δράτης τη ψυχή, χάρη μηδένας. Θεοί εωρακάντε. Ευλογούντος έσου.
Πού πίστες, Θεέ μου, άντρες, όμως Θεά βοηθήσει ημάς, ως ει πράτη.
Καλώς.
Απολαύνει με.
Εύκαρη. Ω τάλας, θύε το Θεό και προσεύχου δια την νίκη του στρατού.
Ωφελία μη μένεις στην
Απολαμβάνεις
εκδόσες. Χάρη δε με.
χαιρέστε
Πάντα
ευχή.
και ουδένα γίνει το μένει. Αλλαγέ πολλές συμβαίνουσαν και Δίος βοηθεί. Ό,τι
Ως
αγαθωτής,
ωφελίας
χαίρετε τα του οίκου σου.
Ευαίσθηστε.
Νόθησε αυτόν και Δίας μεγαλόθυμος έστεση.
Χαιρόν,
Χαίρον των
χαίρον των
Θεών.
Θεών ευμένη.
Ευμένη αγαθήν ψυχήν.
Κράτης την ψυχή. Χάρη ιδέμε. Θεοί εόρακαντε.
Δράτης τη ψυχή, χάρη μηδένας.
Χαίρον των Θεών
Θεοί
ευμένη.
εωρακάντε.
Αγαθήν ψυχή.
Cleopatra, aware of Caesar's anger against Ptolemy for the murder of Pompey, decided to take advantage of the situation. She returned to Egypt in secret, hoping to establish an alliance with one of the most powerful men of the time. Outside of the legend, where she had herself smuggled into his quarters in a carpet, what exactly happened during that fateful meeting remains a mystery. However, Caesar seemed to see a better ruler for Egypt in Cleopatra than in her young and too easily influenced brother. Invoking Ptolemy XII's will, Caesar attempted to mediate peace between the siblings. Ptolemy XIII was enraged by the turn of events, and his advisors were none too happy to see Cleopatra return. Urged on by General Achillas and Pothinos, the young pharaoh plotted against Caesar and Cleopatra, resulting in the siege of Alexandria in 47 BCE. It was in March 47 BCE that Caesar defeated Ptolemy XIII's forces. The young pharaoh drowned in the Nile after having fled the battlefield. With her opponents dead or powerless, Cleopatra married her other much younger brother, Ptolemy XIV, and finally claimed the throne of Egypt for good. The end of the Alexandrian War also cemented the romantic and political alliance between Cleopatra and Caesar. In June of 47 BCE, Cleopatra gave birth to a son, whom she called Caesarion. Caesar did not accept the boy as his heir, choosing instead his nephew Octavian. Nonetheless, on his return to Rome, Caesar invited the queen and her brother husband to stay in the city. Her presence still drew much disapproval from the Senate. Always a strategist, Caesar left 4 legions in Egypt and a man he trusted to direct Egyptian affairs, giving him control of the wheat supplies essential to Rome. Cleopatra and her entourage remained in Rome until March 44 BCE, when Caesar was murdered. Caesar's most faithful ally, Mark Antony, often visited the Queen of Egypt during his stay in Rome. Unlike most, he recognized the legitimacy of Caesarion, the natural son of Caesar. Antony knew he would need the riches of Egypt in order to fight Octavian and claim the Roman Empire. Cleopatra, in return, saw a powerful ally. In the winter of 41 BCE, she arranged a sumptuous tour of Egypt by boat to show Antony the wealth of her country and the power she held as its ruler. A romantic and political relationship followed. The Roman Senate was once again most displeased. To calm spirits in Rome, Antony married Octavia, sister of Octavian. Despite his marriage to Octavia, Antony remained Cleopatra's lover, and she gave birth to their children. Cleopatra increased her kingdom's territory and started a political propaganda alongside her lover in Egypt and beyond. She hoped to create a Ptolemaic federal empire with Alexandria at its center. Antony eventually repudiated his Roman wife for the Egyptian queen, much to the dismay of the Roman elite. However, while Mark Antony focused on Egypt, Octavian carefully gained military and political ascendancy over him in Rome. Octavian managed his own propaganda campaign and succeeded. The Roman people hated Mark Antony and Cleopatra. To avoid the censure still inherent in attacking a fellow Roman, Octavian simply declared war against Egypt. Rome's power still reigned supreme. The powerful Egyptian fleet, led by Cleopatra as well as Mark Antony's forces, were defeated in 31 BCE in Actium. Octavian arrived in Egypt in 30 BCE to formalize his victory. The following events remain difficult to confirm due to the many versions and legends around them. It is believed that after hearing a rumor about Cleopatra's suicide, Mark Antony committed suicide himself. He was brought to the queen as he slowly passed away. Knowing that Octavian would have her chained and paraded through Rome in defeat, Cleopatra planned her own suicide. She most likely killed herself with arsenic, though admittedly, the version where she uses an asp to deliver a fatal bite may be considered more dramatic. What happened to the body of Cleopatra is still a mystery.
Χάρη μη δε. Θεής αεωρακάντε.
Ότις αγαθότης, χαίρετε τα του οίκους. Ο Άγγελακάτε, μόνον Αθήνα Θεής.
Χάριστος ημιτάς σου. Ευλογήτησε Θεή.
Θεός τον κλέπτη μεν αγαπά, ο τάλας τον οικοδεσπότητων των άλλων. Καλία μη μέγιστη αγάπτωση, χάρη δε με.
Άριστα.
Χαίρον τον Θεόν και ουμένη αστυνήτων. Αλλαγέ πολλές συμβαίνουσαν. Παιδείας
Ότις αγαθότης, χαίρετε τα του οίκους. Δεν απολαμβάνω.
πολλά είναι η μύτα της πράξεώς σου. Πάλι χαίρον ώστε μη δίσαν χάνω.
Ωφελία μη μέγιστη εκδόση,
Ωφελημοτάτης
χάρη δε με. Δόθησε αυτόν και δίας μεγαλόθυμος έστης. Ότις αγαθότης,
Καλώς θα ήκουσες όμως.
όχι, με είδωρος αυτοσύνης.
Φαύλος εστί. Και διορίστη διδάσκαλος του Υιού του και ένα δυνάμει του αγμένων ιστέψαν
Γυνή ουδέποτε ενδύματα κοινάφοροι.
Εγίγαστε γαραυτό. Η αγωνιστέ εισέρχονται και τα δραχμίατε και ενδύματα επίρρων. Πάντα τα ψάξετε. Το γεγονός δεύομαι. Μάθη αφήσουμε χωράς. Αγγελίες τα λέγονται μου καρίσου.
Ναι. Φαύλος το πίδεν.
Εσαφά η χώρα της χαρασίας.
Ιδιότι, ώραν βουλήμη τη μηχανές περινά εξελέγχει.
Χωράσεων μόνο ήρυσεν ότι πενθεράν ουδύναμεν εν το οίκο
Φίλος μου, ο Ιπποκράτης,
Τα φωνή σας δεν βουλείτε.
του θέλησα τον αγώνα.
Αγαθά η χώρα
Και μετά, είστε στη γειτονία ημών.
και ύστερα το σύζυγο της ήρυσεν ότι πενθεράν ουδύναμεν εν το οικία των πιστές.
Ακούσατε εδώ, Δευτέραν και Τρίτην ερωμένη σε αυτό γράμμε γιατί αοκάρικα. Απορρίψην αυτόν η ερωμένη. Αυτόν
Όσο θα μου, όλοι τα τρεις, έπρεπε ένα έντον,
Σωστή. Η γνωσκόμεθα γάρ της μονικόποτε εικένα δυνάμει των δραχμαίων ληστεύσαν του εν.
ο άρχον, και εκφωνεί, βότης, γλυκής, φάγε.
Νόστιμο. Νοστιμάτοδο. Πακέκμενο.
Τα
Νούνε
αγαθά
σκέδε.
χώρασο παρά το πολιτήριο μετά πολύ μου χθήνε Ιώστε και κόρη αυτού πάση διασκεδάνησαν εν το ανέμο δια της εκλήτης βίας.
Όσο θα μου,
Ω
όλοι
τάλας,
τα τρεις, έπρεπε ένα έντον,